Welcome everybody. First things first, as always, if I could just get a quick audio visual check, please let me know that you can see my charts clearly and you can hear me all right. With that, how are you all doing this fine day, wherever you are out there? Guys, I got a few things to talk about. She's going to be a quick one today. I'm actually trying to get out the door to head out kite surfing for the day. Nice and windy and hot out, so I just wanted to bring up a couple of charts, talk about a couple of concerns, a couple levels to watch, and that sort of thing. So, all good. Perfect. Welcome, Viking. Nice to see you here. Nice to see some familiar faces in here. All right, guys. Well, let's put it this way. Bitcoin is seeing a nice little pump this morning so far, but with the weekly candle closing tonight, there's a few things I want to touch on because I personally think Bitcoin is on the verge of a very large move. Honestly, at this point, I could see it being either direction. So, as I've been saying for the last few streams, we are still in a very dangerous zone. That's basically all there is to it. And to nobody's surprise, I still feel like the longer time frames, like the weekly chart, have some big red flag warnings of a large crash. However, if the bulls can actually end up invalidating this bearish fib pull that I'm going to show you in a second, that I've been warning about for over a month now, then we may actually end up going on that moon mission that everybody feels so entitled to. And I know everybody thinks that I'm just bearish and I want Bitcoin to dump. Make no mistake, I want a parabolic run just like the next guy. I just want to make sure that I'm taking things one trade at a time because the market doesn't really care what I want. And you can bet the market's just not going to make this easy on any of us by moving in a straight direction. It's going to be very choppy. So with that, I do want to hop right over to my weekly chart, guys. This isn't going to be any surprise to you guys. I've shown this I'm always talking about this weekly chart and specifically a very specific RSI divergence that I look for and that I was warning for basically for over a month now. Very similar to the one that I was warning about back here, just we have a much bigger one now. And that's basically this overextended bearish divergence that I look for. It's one of my favorite setups to short in general on the shorter time frames, and I like to take it quite serious on the bigger time frames as well. And that's basically so when the RSI is going from overbought conditions, let's say, down to regular territory, so back down to the 70 level, while getting some sort of a double top formation. So whether it's a double top, a swing fail, a STUBER fib, just anywhere in that kind of potential rejection zone and getting that harsh RSI divergence, it's something I take quite serious. And I know a lot of people think, well, that's not going to happen this time, but just understand mathematically that it is worth at least, taking into consideration that it's a reason to be cautious. I don't think now is the time to, let's say, be throwing billion-dollar long positions into resistance. I know a lot of you probably know exactly what I'm talking about with that, but that just seems like risk management was just not there in that type of a setup because, people who long into resistance and people who short into support end up getting liquidated. That's very natural. So the fact that we are going back up into the same resistance level that we were unable to break last time when, the market was flying to the upside and had good momentum, we are attacking that same level of resistance with significantly less strength. That's what this relative strength index, the RSI, that is what this divergence is showing us. We have significantly less strength here at the same level. And so far, it does look like we're seeing a bit of a rejection here. Like I said, this candle closes later tonight in about 9 hours, or what is it, 8 hours from now? Yeah, 8 hours from now, this candle will close. And we'll have to see from there, right? If the bulls are able to, in fact, push above my 115 fib level, this has been my invalidation for quite some time, you guys. Basically, since we bottomed around 74K, I was looking at this resistance around 89K, but as soon as that ended up breaking on the micro trend, it was a very realistic possibility that we end up back at all-time high resistance. And that doesn't necessarily mean we're going to smash through it, right? Again, we have less strength coming at that same level. So yeah, if that divergence gets invalidated, we invalidate my 115 fib, that would invalidate the macro STUBER fib. That would invalidate my swing fail setup. That would invalidate my divergence setup. So there's a lot of things right now lining up with this level. And until that breaks, I just don't want to put my astronaut suit on quite yet. I want to wait and see what happens here. I have been actually more interested in altcoins as far as the bullish side of things, which I'll get into a little later. But yeah, basically what I really want to drill home here is that, you know, we are at that dangerous level that I keep talking about. And just to put it into perspective, the last few times that we've seen this type of a divergence on the RSI with that double top kind of formation is, yeah, we're going to have to see what happens with this one, right? To be determined. We'll see what happens. We might just invalidate it right away, maybe next week. That's the thing. I really think in the next week or two, we're going to see some fireworks one way or the other, because we're either going to invalidate all the red flags that I was just mentioning, or they are actually going to take effect fairly soon. So I think either way, it's time to have your head on a swivel, guys. But looking at previous times we've got this type of a setup, this was obviously a smaller one, but I was very vocal about this right back at Christmas. I was talking about a potential double top with that setup. And yeah, we got a 30% correction from that signal here. Same with this back here. A lot of you guys, I mean, when I first started streaming on Financial Summit here, you guys, this was one of the first things that I'd mentioned is we were trading around here when I started streaming here. And a lot of people thought I was crazy by talking about this bearish divergence here. And we did get a 30% move to the downside. Yeah, eventually we climbed to the upside. That's very natural, right? I mean, we all know that over time, Bitcoin goes up. Most assets do, honestly, but specifically Bitcoin. I'm very bullish on Bitcoin long term. I want to be very clear about that. But these pullbacks do happen, and 30% corrections are, in my opinion, very serious and worth mentioning and worth being ready for in case we get another one like this. The thing is, guys, 30% is generally the small side of things when we get a correction based on this signal. You know, we also have that the exact setup we have right now on the weekly chart is what ended the last market cycle. Now, I have mixed feelings about that, because part of me is basically, yeah, you know, even the amount of time that we had, you know, we had this big correction and then we shot straight back up into resistance, but we have that divergence. Just like back here, we ended up falling here, ended up shooting right back up very quickly into that resistance, got that divergence, and we ended up getting almost a 80% correction from that one. So just goes to show you that even on the small end of things, a 30% correction would be quite normal for this kind of a setup. It doesn't have to happen, right? No trade setup is going to play out 100% of the time, but this is one that, as far as my short setups, I have something, I think it's about 85, 87% success rate when I did back testing on the 4-hour and daily chart for 4 years. Or sorry, I think it was 3 years of data that I back tested on the 4-hour and the daily of this pattern play out. So, I mean, it's something that I don't want to take lightly. It's something that is definitely on my radar. But again, guys, this can be invalidated very quickly. I mean, from where I started getting really, really cautious here at the swing fail level, I mean, it's really only a 5 or a 6% move that you're missing if you're, you know, waiting for some sort of a confirmed breakout to invalidate these red flags. So it's not like I'm stuck. That, you know, if we end up blasting through this, that I'm still gonna be saying this has to play out. No, right? That's the thing. If it gets invalidated, then so be it. But as it stands right now, it's just definitely worth being cautious of, in my opinion. The monthly chart also, something I have been talking about is the MDX Wavemaster indicator. On the monthly time frame, so far, every time we've got a cross with this indicator, it has been a full-on reversal, and we did get this bearish cross well, actually a few months ago. So yeah, it can take a while to play out. Now, I will give credit where credit is due. Right now, it is trying to cross bullish back above. So you know what? I can't ignore that. That does look like a thing right now. However, that being said, this monthly candle literally just started like what, 12, 14, 16 hours ago, whatever. This monthly candle literally just started today. So it has by no means officially crossed. It looks like it's crossed, but it hasn't closed or anything like that. So still something to be cautious of. And again, as well with these crosses, just looking at the time frame, a lot of people are saying that, oh, this market cycle, it's just getting started. Well, you know, it's already played out the same amount of time with these crosses. We've actually been climbing longer than last market cycle based on this indicator. So again, that is just one thing, but these are all just a few red flags that I don't want to take too lightly is all. I did have somebody actually asking me actually two different things about my weekly chart. I had somebody mention that, well, gold had a very similar setup and it just absolutely took off. This is the chart that they referred to as. They said it was the same setup. I want to be clear. This setup is nothing alike because the RSI was not, the RSI here on the divergence that they pointed out was actually still in overbought territory. So that's much different than being back down at the 70 level. And as well, the fibs, we were way, way above my invalidation for some sort of a double top setup, right? The 115, the 115 would have been here, and it was significantly higher. So I did just want to throw that one out there because some people like to compare things even when they're not necessarily the same at all. So I just wanted to touch on that very briefly. A few other things that I wanted to touch on is, first of all, the 4 hour. I mean, on this is going to be the midterm here, but I'm not too surprised to see us getting some sort of a bounce here, right? We do, like, whether or not the macro is going to see a big reversal and see a big crash. Either way, I'm not too shocked to see some sort of a bounce here because we did have a nice little consolidation here, at least on the way up. So as we broke up, yeah, you know what? We set this structure here. So as we break above, if we come back down, we at least have some structure again to test as support, right? So, you know, so far on the macro, we're still seeing it as a swing fail, right? I mean, we got above the STUBER fib, but it was never invalidated because we never got above the 115. In fact, we just ended up testing just above that double top territory and then getting rejected and even getting a perfect retest there. So that's actually why I'm still in a third of my short from 110,215 US dollars. I still have a third of that short running, and that was from this swing fail setup here. And you know what? Yeah, if we end up reversing to the upside, whatever, that gets stopped at break even. The rest of my position, I've taken nice profits off it anyways. But so be it. But one thing to watch for, guys, is even if we do get a bounce here, just be a little bit cautious because it's still possible that we're just going to do one of these, or you know what, even go slightly higher, right? Even if we do something like this. At the end of the day, like I said, as long as we're below my 115, which is around 115K, as long as we're below that, I just want to be cautious. I don't want to be, I'm still taking scalp longs, but I'm not looking at taking a full-on swing position where I'm not looking at downsizing very quickly. And any long positions that I'm taking near resistance at this point, very quick to start taking profits and updating my stops or just cutting my losses very quickly. I did mention in my Telegram a couple of days ago that I took a little bit of a hedge long and it got stopped out very quickly. It was very tight. It was just a tight risk setup that I wanted to try and swing at a bit of a hedge. But yeah, they don't always play out, right? It was one that I was basically looking at very tight risk management and not feeling confident either way. And honestly, I'm even treating the shorts the same, right? Those of you who want to say that I'm a perma bear, whatever, understand that I am still very cautious on the bearish side of things too, because of all the reasons I just mentioned. If we do end up breaking this level, I mean, we could go absolutely parabolic at that point. I just don't want to put on that astronaut suit right as we're trading into macro resistance, basically. So no matter what, guys, just be cautious out there. We do see Bitcoin like I said, having a nice climb this morning so far. This was actually yesterday. We got this nice bullish STUBER fib, perfect 786 test there, and we haven't been that low since. So, you know, like that coming out of this 4 hour support level here, it's nice to see those things lining up. And again, I'll give credit where credit is due. It's nice to see that there is signs of life from the bulls here. It is great to see that support is still being tested as support, if nothing else, right? So that is nice to see. Just looking at things on the shorter time frame real quick, since starting this stream here, we have set a new higher high on this trend here. So I'm basically looking at this for our high, and we now have a higher high. We can now start pulling a fib, looking for some sort of a long entry. If you're looking for a new scalp long, or you're like me and you never got into a long position down here, whatever. At this point, I'm not willing to FOMO long into this breakout here, but if we got some sort of a nice pullback, I would love to get into some sort of a hedge long position, hoping for something like that. Just because we do have this structure staircasing higher now. If that ends up breaking, then, there's still, it's not necessarily that support is totally lost, because again, at that point, that would be losing the micro trend, but we would still possibly have this where the swing started from. So we would still have this support box down here, basically from 103.5 down to, call it 103.2. And invalidation actually isn't until about 102.6K. We end up dropping that level, and then, yeah, I think it's very possible that we're going to see some lower prices. If we end up losing this purple box here and flipping that support into resistance, then I think that's where we start targeting those bigger targets that I was talking about as far as swing targets goes, and where I'd be looking at taking more profits off my short from 110. I would be looking at taking more profits around this 92. I would actually be front running it. I always front run my fib targets a little bit. So I would be actually looking for about 93K and 83K. And I'm not saying we have to go to those prices, guys. I want to be very clear about this. This is just me getting ready for, if the price hits these levels, that is basically, I'm just going to be ready for it, ready to take profits, ready to start looking for reasons to take long scalp positions that hopefully turn into runners, all that sort of thing. So I would actually feel significantly more bullish on Bitcoin's price if we did get a proper test of support. A lot of people would start getting very bearish as we start testing support, because people love getting bullish into resistance. They love getting bearish into support. That's just human emotions. It's very typical. It's very standard. But unfortunately, it does lead to people getting wrecked, and our emotions can definitely take the best of us in these markets when they're so volatile like this, especially when you just get set in certain mindsets and echo chambers and stuff like that. So just be careful out there, you guys. Honestly, I was mentioning earlier, I'm more interested personally in, as far as the bullish side of things anyways, with altcoins. And a few reasons for that, guys, is that, and honestly, see, that's the thing, is a lot of people get mad at me for being bearish on Bitcoin, even though they mostly hold altcoins, as degenerates like to do, myself included. But the thing is, I'm actually a little more bullish on altcoins right now. Yeah, in times of volatility, yes, they get crushed a little bit harder and stuff like that. One thing to consider is generally at the end of market cycles, and I don't know for sure if this is the end of the market cycle, right? This is just if my bearish theories happen to have some merit to them, and all of a sudden this is the top of the market cycle. Again, not saying it is, but if it is, quite often altcoins at the end of the cycle, they act a little different, because normally altcoins will just move more aggressively than Bitcoin, whether it's to the upside or the downside. However, at the end of the cycle, they tend to act a little bit different, where when Bitcoin tops out, altcoins will often still have their final rally, their finale run, whatever you want to call it, where they still do make some good gains and play catch up a little bit before the market goes full bear market, basically. That being said, on the other side of the coin, if Bitcoin does invalidate all these red flags and it does go parabolic like so many people seem to think it's about to do, then even better for altcoins, right? At that point, that's just better for the whole market, because then it's not just money circulating and moving around. It's actually more money coming into the space. So if Bitcoin and altcoins are doing well together, I mean, that shows good strength in the market, in my opinion. Another thing with that, ETH BTC, you can see on the daily, it has a buy signal on the MDX Trendmaster indicator, one of my favorite indicators. It is a lower buy signal, but after a move like this, even if we end up getting a lower sell signal, I mean, there's so much room to move to the upside. It obviously doesn't have to, but just seeing that the ETH BTC pair has broken a nice tight consolidating range here. It's broke some nice structure. It's starting to staircase higher. It's holding this buy signal so far that, there's some things going for Ethereum over Bitcoin at this point. So maybe this is where we start to see the signs that altcoins may start to outperform Bitcoin for this part of the cycle. Another thing to watch for is Bitcoin dominance. This is another sign leading me to appreciate altcoins right now, is that Bitcoin dominance has lost some structure, and where it's trading right now is actually, it's testing a STUBER fib, right? It's testing a 786 retest from where we've topped so far. So again, any of these things can be invalidated at any time. But these are actually, I know a lot of people, just the fact that I'm looking at this as resistance, a lot of people might instantly get triggered and think that I'm bearish. This is actually a good thing for the whole market other than Bitcoin, I guess. In my opinion, I would love to see that Bitcoin dominance drop off a cliff and see altcoins and meme coins and stuff just fly into the upside. That would be so much fun. And again, even though I sound bearish and I come off as bearish in pretty much all my streams for the last couple months, understand that I want to see that. I would absolutely love to see a parabolic altcoin season. So, and I think that there is a few things lining up for that. So we're going to have to see what happens there. I do want to catch up on the chat a little bit, you guys. For those of you who are interested in just kind of trading the charts rather than tweets and fundamentals, and you just want to stay one step ahead of the markets based entirely on price action, no emotions attached. If you just want more of my thoughts on the market in general, there is the QR code up in the top left corner of my screen, as well as a link in the description down below to join my free Telegram channel if you trade under my link with BloFin. Just to kind of show, like I said, I'm in a bit of a short, still have a third of my short running from 110 to 15. And I laid it out there basically just looking at a potential swing fail. It ended up running, and that's why I still have a good chunk of it running. The other day, I also posted this one. It was a new scalp setup, and that one also just a STUBER fib short setup, played out absolutely beautifully there. Not in that one anymore. I took profits on that one. And those of you guys who want to join my Telegram, and those of you guys who are in my Telegram already, BloFin is currently giving my followers this pretty sweet promotion here, this deposit and trading volume bonus. So be sure to check out the fine print down below, just so there's no surprises or anything. But this promo is still running until June 8th. So you got another week there as well. So yeah, guys, right now, like I said, market's at a very interesting place. I see reasons for both, honestly, and that's why I'm still hanging on to my chunk of my short. However, like I said, I am taking profits along the way. At this point, I'm not really interested in taking more profits off that short until I hit some bigger swing targets. But if that doesn't happen, whatever, I've already taken some nice profits off that trade, so don't really care either way. I'm just here to take this one trade setup at a time. I was mentioning that gold setup, how, some people were messaging me saying, yeah, that gold setup was the same, for example. Another question I've been getting is, well, Stu, if this bearish setup of yours was going to play out, don't you think it would have happened by now? Here's one thing to consider is, I know when we get into longer time frame charts that people get very impatient, because especially crypto traders, we are degenerates. We don't have patience like traditional markets. We expect everything to happen very fast. Understand that this weekly chart, if it's going to play out, is going to take a long time to play out because it's such a long time frame. The fact that we don't think of it as we've been trading at this level for such a long time already. We've been trading at this swing fail level for 2 candles. Yes, it's 2 weeks, but it's only 2 candles. If this was a 1-minute chart or a 5-minute chart, nobody would question that at all. But as soon as you add a longer time frame to the mix, people get very emotional about it. And just to show you what can happen, and what I mean is, let's go back to last cycle where this happened. We tested this swing fail level for 5 weeks before it actually dumped. So Do I think that this move has already missed its opportunity? No, the structure hasn't changed yet. So we are still at a level of resistance. That's all there is to it. From here, we're going to have to see what happens. But, anything is possible. The market felt very bullish at this level as well. Social media was very bullish. The fundamentals were never as bullish as they were here until all of a sudden the market couldn't keep up, and we ended up turning into our bear market again. We had less strength at the same resistance we couldn't break, and eventually the bulls kind of gave up there. So again, that doesn't need to happen here again. This can obviously break to the upside. Like I said, if we invalidate this box, we invalidate my divergence, we invalidate everything about this. Yeah, at that point, if we can start staircasing higher, and the best thing would be that we actually start, giving it, let's say, just breaking above and staircasing higher, rather than just going into straight parabolic territory. That would be great, because then we have higher lows along the way for nice, easy invalidations. But again, the market doesn't always give us what we want. So we're just going to have to see what forms. But yeah, if we can start breaking those levels, I'm going to be a moon boy just like the next guy. But as it stands right now, we're just at resistance. That's all there is to it. I just want to catch up on the chat a little bit. How are you all doing this fine morning or afternoon, evening, wherever you guys are? Stu's here to ruin our Sunday. No, not totally. Like I said, there's still some reasons to be bullish. Another thing, actually, I did want to mention was, again, with the MDX Trendmaster indicator. One thing that I talk about on a lot of my streams is which way these buy and sell signals are trending. It's not so much that I take every signal as its own, as concrete evidence where we're going to go, that type of thing. But I love to watch which way these signals are trending. So what I mean by that is, right now we have a sell signal, right? Yeah, that could end up pushing the price down on us. However, like I was talking about, how I would be actually more bullish if we could pull back and test some levels of support, some actual, longer term levels of support like this. We do have this much higher sell signal. And in turn, I would expect some sort of a higher buy signal to come in on this indicator. And if that happens, then I'm going to assume that this sell-off is getting cut short. And that will be a great sign of strength to me. So that is one thing to watch for, as well as I think it's on the daily. It's still holding that exact trend that I'm talking about, right? Here on the daily, we had this much higher sell signal like this. And then we also printed this higher buy signal, and we are still holding this buy trend right here on the daily time frame. So like I said, not all hope is lost for the bulls. I know that I sound bearish because I'm warning to be cautious at resistance, like any reasonable trader should, in my opinion. But there is those signs that, hey, this buy signal, this support here, it lines up with the horizontal support of this range I was talking about earlier. It's absolutely possible that it just moons us to the upside and we can actually break through this resistance. So I'm excited to see what happens. I don't really care which way we end up breaking from here. I'm excited either way, because the markets have just been so volatile. It's been great. As far as a trader, yeah, as an investor, if you're scared, let's say you didn't get into your investments until the media was talking about it at all-time highs, and it feels like this bull market barely got started. Yeah, I totally understand that. But a lot of us were bullish on the price down below 20K, right? I was warning about being bullish down after we kind of got this reversal here after the FTX collapse. I started getting very vocally bullish at this level, and I was taking a lot of grief for that. A lot of people were telling me, oh, we're going down to 12K, we're going down to 10K, 8K, whatever. And I started flipping to being bullish at that time. So at that time, well, as it stands now, taking some profits at these levels or starting to be cautious at these levels, I just don't think that's a bad idea when you're up over 500% on your investment, right? So does it make sense that, the market... Well, basically, let's put it this way. The market doesn't owe us anything. The market can do whatever it wants at this point. It's been a great run. Bitcoin has had a great couple of years behind it. And And, I would love to see it continue climbing. I would love to see it going parabolic from here, but we're just going to have to see what happens because, again, the market doesn't give a shit about my opinion or my feelings. So we'll just have to see. Again, I am for real. I'm going to catch up on the chat here a little bit. Weekly looks like trash. I agree with that, man. Scumdog, I agree. It just looks like we're getting that classic double top bearish divergence rejection. But again, very happy to see that get invalidated. We can break that 115K. I'll be a lot happier from a bullish perspective at that point. But for now, you know what? I'm happy being a cautious bear. That's where I'm comfortable right now. We're also at a weekly bearish div on the Wave Master and the retail stablecoin demand. I haven't looked at the retail stablecoin demand indicator all that much, Viking, but I don't want to end up bringing up new indicators and setting up my. Actually, I'll just do it on the monthly. Let's just go to the weekly where I do have this. I must have the divergences turned off. Where do we got here? Regular divergences. They should be on there, no? Let's go fast. Yeah, so same thing on this momentum indicator. You can see that we do have this regular divergence on the Wave Master on the weekly chart as well. So love to see that being printed as well from a bearish perspective, right? So again, it's just that no matter how you look at it, you guys, we can shoot a lot higher. The price of Bitcoin can go much higher, but to completely ignore all those red flags based on a gut feeling or based on emotions of, well, I want it to go higher, so it has to. That's just dangerous thinking, and it's okay to be cautious. And yeah, the one thing is, guys, I will say that, I've been quite bearish about this for quite some time. And I'm actually starting to see on social media a lot more people becoming bearish at this point. And that is one thing that is leading me to think that maybe we do push higher. Just too many people are starting to think that this looks like it's ready to correct. But again, I still hear more about the bullish hopium than I do about the bearish posts. So we're going to have to see. Also, just taking a look at the MDX ALGO dashboard here. Longs are starting to build as well, right? Before, as we were climbing for the first little bit, the market was actually very heavily short for once, whereas right now the longs have taken over again on Binance Retail here. So back up at 54%. I think it was down to like 30 something a week or two ago. And so that's very natural too, right? Like I was talking about before, people love getting bullish at resistance, and you can see that people are starting to long right as we're trading into resistance like this. So again, I think it's very natural to get some sort of a bounce from this level we're currently at, but I just have, and this is going to be one of those things. It is a gut feeling, but I have a gut feeling that this bounce isn't going to last too long just because of all the other red flags that I've shown on multiple time frames, right? When moon, Mark, your guess is as good as mine for when moon. I guess when we can either take out some resistance levels, or the other option I don't even want to talk about right now, because a lot of people will get triggered if I say my honest opinions about when the moon may actually be. So we will see. If we do lose 103K, the amount of long liquidations at 92K becomes a big target. I agree 100% with that, Viking. And that also lines up with my STUBER fib target, right? On the macro one, that would be my 0.5 target, would be right around that 92K level. And there is a lot of liquidations around there. So I agree 100%. What do I think about the fractal from the 15th of October to the 6th of November, 2024? That was this guy. This guy down here. I feel a little bit different about it just because the time frame, it's spread out with this big divergence, and we're seeing a bit of a rejection at the 70 level on the RSI. So this one actually has my bearish divergence looking like it's rejecting at this level, whereas back here it had already played out a few times from the smaller one here. We got a rejection here and a rejection here. Both of these were valid Stuber fib setups. Whereas when we came back up to this level, we had the RSI was already broken out of the downtrend, right? Now, to be fair, we have broken out of the first downtrend that we had here as well. But just the fact that we see the RSI starting to curl over from that double top territory, I am looking at it a little bit different. But again, we'll have to see, right? This could just curl right back to the upside. And if the RSI goes back into overbought territory, I think that's just going to show that there's a shit ton of buying pressure in the market. And I think from there, we start to see us staircasing higher again. But that's what I want to see, right? With the RSI, I want to see this divergence invalidated by going back into overbought conditions. A little misunderstanding a lot of people have with using the RSI. They always think, oh, if it's overbought, we have to correct. In a strong uptrend, the RSI loves being overextended. So I would love to see that happen again. Like I said, it's just worth being cautious at this level in general, in my opinion. How about the block on the monthly chart? Let me just reload my monthly chart here. This one right here, I'm assuming you are mentioning, because that yellow one that I mentioned a few weeks ago. Yeah, that's another thing, right? The fact that we ended up not flipping this old support here into resistance here, the fact that we reclaimed that block, again, I'll give credit where credit is due. That's a point for the bulls, in my opinion, but we still have to be a little cautious that we are still technically at all-time high resistance, right? So, but yeah, absolutely. I do like seeing that from a bullish perspective. That is one that I was expecting this to completely nuke the price. I'm actually a little bit shocked to see that the monthly did close above. So yeah, from a bullish perspective, I do like to see that. I just feel like there's a lot more red flags currently. And since we are trading at resistance, it's not even so much, guys, like, don't necessarily think of it as me being overly bearish at this level. It's just acknowledging resistance is what I'm doing. And I would always rather be a seller at resistance and a buyer at support rather than the other way around. And that's not saying we have to go straight down either. Obviously, the market's going to chop around on shorter time frames. I'm not entering leverage positions based on a weekly chart, anything like that. I'm more so trading the 5-minute chart like normal. But yeah, like I said, honestly, I just think this is a dangerous range in general because, yeah, there is some bullish signs in the market, but there's a lot of bearish signs in the market. So just be cautious, you guys. Honestly, that's where I'm kind of looking for those quick, basically looking for scalp opportunities or scalp sized risk, and then hoping to catch more of a swing size position with, or a swing size move with a part of my position. But we'll have to see what happens. Basically, I'm not confident either direction at this point with Bitcoin. And that's why most of the bullish sentiment that I've had has been with trading altcoins, low cap meme coins, stuff like that. Just because, again, those few things why I think that altcoins could still take off. Even, see, the thing is with altcoins right now is I see it as basically if Bitcoin's going to go parabolic, it's going to be good for the whole market. Whereas even if Bitcoin has reached its top, that's a big if, you guys. I just have to say that over and over because people like to really cherry pick what I'm saying. But if Bitcoin has topped or close to topping, I still think that altcoins could get a finale run. So I feel like altcoins are kind of in a nice position right now, but if we go to 92, it's over. See, I actually disagree with that. See, with 92 being over, I actually disagree with that, because that would just be a typical, that's just my first target as far as a basic Stuber setup. Basically, because the thing is, when a lot of people mention certain numbers, they're just looking at numbers, but don't necessarily look at the structure involved. And more specifically, people like to ignore the structure on longer time frames because they don't have the patience for it to play out. Whereas if this was a 5-minute chart, my laddered entries on this type of a setup, and obviously it takes a lot longer to play out on a daily chart like this, but if this was a 5-minute chart and this was a typical Stuber fib, I would be looking at laddering in my entries, something like this, with my stop loss up here. So that being said, my targets on a classic Stuber fib setup are the 0.5 fib and then the 214 fib. And the reason for the 214 is because it's the opposite 786. So if I pulled a fib from down here up to here, that's where my purple box is, down there. So that's the thing, guys. We could pull significantly deeper. And in my opinion, that's just retesting support, right? Because we found support down at around 74K and we never came close to retesting any sort of support. So I would love to see a retest and go from there. I will absolutely, even if it's just a short-lived bounce, because let's face it, the market may be over already. Like this cycle, it could be over already and we just don't know it yet. But the thing is, even if it is, I will still be looking for buy opportunities down here, even if there's a bounce, even if it's short lived. I totally expect some sort of a bounce here. And the funny thing is, if that does happen, we're going to see this, and people are going to, after we get a little bit of a bounce, oh, the bottom's in, the bottom's in. That doesn't necessarily mean the bottom's in just because we go up for a few hours. That just means that there's an obvious buy level that's being respected. And don't get me wrong, it's great to see levels be respected when they should be. But that's just, that's just typical social media and echo chambers and how they work. But I would love to see us get down to this 83K level. I would be actually more bullish down there than I am up here. Have a look. Stu, can you please have a look at TAO? I'm actually not going to I'm not going to take a look at altcoins because I'm actually going to be wrapping up fairly quickly because, like I said, I'm actually on my way out to head out kite surfing for the day. I just wanted to get a very quick video in here, just kind of warning about a few levels with Bitcoin is all. But that being said, if you're in the Telegram, I'll take a look at TAO. I'll take a look at it and I'll see if I can find anything worth posting in the Telegram a little bit later. Doing good, thanks. I was bearish during the 2025 Bitcoin conference. Yeah, that's another thing, right? With those conferences, you always it's very natural. People get bullish when these big things are happening, and then you see the market dump. But we'll see, right? So far, we're still finding nice little bit of support here. So, what level do we need to break to invalidate my 4-hour sell signal? Same as my daily or weekly, in my opinion. Like at this point, just since we're up at resistance, like doesn't really matter what time frame. I'm not going to be macro bullish until we break 115. And even at that point, it doesn't necessarily mean, oh, we broke 115, time to FOMO all in YOLO long at this point. No, it just means at that point that I'm more open to the idea of looking for pullbacks as we staircase higher. That's where we can pull new Fibonacci's, and we have valid higher lows on the trend. So we have just more obvious invalidation levels, so it makes it safer and easier to trade is all. Seen the same price structure before last year, grinds up back to all-time high, and then new candle to grab liquidity on these current lows, rip back up, retest that wick left behind on the daily, uptrend resumes 120 to 130K. Yeah, it's very possible, right? We will see. I'm open to anything right now. Like I said, I'm more so trading the 5 minute rather than the weekly and the daily and the 4 hour anyways. But yeah, I just have, I really want to see all those red flags on the weekly invalidated before I get too bullish on the market is all. I would just rather be cautious and protect myself rather than to, like I was talking about earlier, throwing 100 million or $1 billion longs into resistance. That's just well, I'm not going to give my opinion about that. Bear moon was last Monday. Yes. Yeah, we did get a nice little dumperoo there. What's the argument with global M2? I don't see how we could be going down much further from here. The correlation is too good. And that's another thing too, right? If the money supply is going to grow drastically, then I would assume that high risk assets and stuff like that would also climb. So I do agree. If there is one thing that is going to push this market higher, it is going to be cutting rates or printing more money, whatever. My feeling about, a lot of people saying Powell has to cut rates and stuff. I know there's more to it than this, but just as a general idea, understand that last time we had really big rate cuts was during COVID, and there was a global pandemic and it was a state of emergency. We had bear market size corrections within a couple of weeks where we saw the markets crashing 70, 80% in a matter of weeks. So rates got cut. Right now, people are screaming that we need rate cuts, but most of the markets are trading at all-time highs, and apparently the market's healthy and all these sort of things. I know there's more to it than just what the price of assets are, but just to kind of put it into perspective a little bit, I guess. But yeah, I mean, the M2 money supply is slightly growing. So yeah, if that keeps flying to the upside, then yeah, there's absolutely a good chance that Bitcoin climbs with it. It's just that I want to wait and see Bitcoin start staircasing and setting higher highs. Because here's the thing, right now with where we are, even this, I love to see that we do have a higher high here. The thing is, with the high and higher high, if this was a typical Stuber fib, all of you guys in my Telegram channel, those of you who have sat in any number of my streams, you know that when I look at structure on any time frame, when I see a higher high like that, I pull a fib from the lowest point between the two. Unfortunately, at this point, that is way down at this 74K level. And that's why I still have this setup here. This purple box down here, it's not me saying that we have to go down there. It's just saying that if we go down there, there is a valid Stuber fib setup at this point. A new type of structure where I can at least have a valid higher low on the trend would be now if we can set a higher high again, right? Because just how the structure formed, this is still my confirmed higher low on the macro trend. Obviously, yeah, there's a whole bunch on this mini trend, but the macro trend, this is the higher low. If we end up setting a new higher high, then if this is where we've bounced something like this, then we have a new confirmed higher low. And that would be absolutely fantastic. At that point, it gets a lot easier to get into some proper swing setups because we have a confirmed new structure point at that point on the macro trend, not just this this current, I'm going to call it the micro trend, but obviously it's still a fairly big one because it's the daily chart. But yeah, I would love to have new macro support up here, but I don't have a confirmed higher low until we get a higher high. And at that point, if we do that, then I can look for something like this, pulling a fib from our confirmed higher low and look for a pullback like that. I would love to see that. And I would start getting very bullish if I had that type of setup coming into the charts. It's just right now, just with how the structure has formed, I just need to wait before I get too bullish is all. Not saying we can't go up, right? That's the thing. It's a dangerous level. There's a lot of what ifs happening right now at this level. Nothing like having a conference to celebrate Bitcoin by inviting a load of government officials to talk about it. Yeah, you're not wrong. All right, guys. Like I said, I got to get out kite surfing. I got some people to meet up with. So, anyways, I think that's about all I wanted to go over very quickly today. Hopefully, you guys did find this stream useful. If so, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss these live streams. And as I mentioned, if you want access to my private Telegram channel where I share some of my theories, some of my trade setup ideas, just my overall thoughts on the markets in general, there is a scannable QR code in the top left corner of the screen and also a link down below for that as well. And with that, I'm out. Stay safe, my friends. Peace.